Sex saves marriages. Some say I'm a goddess with both brains and compassion. I say I'm 20% girl brain and 100% fun. I want to help you navigate the labyrinth that is the female mind. If you're not having sex with her, what are you even doing? It's only too much sex when it interferes with your mission. What we're talking about translates not only into success with women, but into social and business interactions across the board with anyone. I want you to win in life, in business, and primarily in sex. I'm like Dr. Ruth meets Nina Hartley, except I only take my clothes off in public when there's tequila shots involved. I'm so excited for the show. Are you ready? Let's do this. Good morning, good morning. Welcome to Bunny Church. Welcome to the Bunny Show Live. I am so excited that you are here. It is going to be a fun day today because I have got like this 8,000 page article. And it came to my attention because even the Today Show got a hold of it, which, you know, I don't put a whole lot of credence in local or national news rather, but it's all about dating, relationships, marrying, and it really is a topic that takes an hour to cover. Like it takes some time to really dig in. So I went ahead and printed the whole thing because, you know, I'm 45 and old school enough that I still want to print stuff. That's just the way I roll. But I'm really excited because this is an article, you know, a lot of times this kind of stuff is written by women, for women. It's very much, you know, from that female perspective, which we all know, you know, of course, I think that I'm the exception to the rule, but we all know that a lot of times if it's a woman-led piece of news, research, or information, you can probably just take it with a grain of salt. So this is an article written by a man. I assume a heterosexual man. I did not do a whole lot of research into him, but the article is good and it's based on research. So it's not just his exposition of, you know, what he thinks about men and the current climate of dating as a man or dating for marriage as a man. I will say this article, the reason why men marry some women and not others. That is the name of the article by John Malloy. And if you are not in this demographic, if you're not looking for a woman to marry, if you're not dating for marriage right now, there is still a lot that you can glean from this discussion. So don't leave just because you're like, I don't want to get married or whatever. We're gonna get into a lot of the weeds here, and you know, you guys who are happily married already, if you have sons or even daughters, this is information that will be good to keep in mind as you raise those sons and daughters. So I really do believe that there is something for 90% of you out there. Good morning, Brian. I'm glad you're here. Thank you for checking in. Also, just a quick reminder, if you are watching from Twitter X Live, I'm so happy you are here, but I will not be able to see your live comments or questions. So if you have any of those that you would like to jump into the chat box, you're going to have to go to that YouTube link. So thank you. So the reason why men marry some women and not others. This is so good. He opens with all the caveats that he's not a dating expert or an advice columnist or a psychologist or a relationship therapist, which actually I think probably benefits us in the long run. A lot of, like, the first half of this article is genuinely just reporting findings, which you and I will be able to pick apart, which I'm excited about that. And then the second half, he gets into a little bit more like, so do this, not that. And then it kind of becomes like an article more geared towards women, which I think is kind of strange. But we're going to focus on the front end of the article and kind of the overreaching trends that he saw in his research. So I'm pretty excited about it. It's been a really great article, and I think that a lot of people will get a lot from it. All right. So I'm not going to read the whole thing. I'm not going to cover every section, but the first thing that really caught Fort Worth in my eye about this article was the age of commitment. So this is talking a lot about why men marry in the first place, what age they generally are ready, in their own words, for marriage, that sometimes men will be in a dating relationship for a long time, be in a long-term relationship, not marry her, but then immediately get into another relationship and immediately get married to the next girl they date. Like, literally, like, just go from not marrying one to immediately marrying the next without even really knowing her. This is common practice. These are things that happen often. Girlfriends will be like, but why didn't he want to marry me? And she's just spent 6 years with him and not been able to nail him down, so to speak. So this survey uncovered some interesting facts. The first was that there is an age when a man is ready to marry. We're calling it the age of commitment. The age varies from man to man, but there are patterns that are easily identified. So the patterns are what I want to dig into first and foremost. The patterns of the age of commitment. And I think that that's a great phrase for exactly what this is, that age of commitment, that the reason why men marry some women and not others. First reason, the age of commitment. Sometimes the timing is just off. So most men, and I want to kind of find out where you guys are in this range. As we go through this, please chime in. Please, jump in and tell a little bit like, oh yeah, that's me, or that's how I felt, or I remember saying that when I was single, or that's why I am still single, or whatever the case may be. I like it whenever you guys jump in and keep that chat box going, because I like to hear from you and see what's resonating and what's not. Most men who graduate from high school start thinking of marriage as a real possibility when they are 23 or 24 years old. So this is the men who go to high school, graduate from high school, but they don't go on to college. So this section is really dividing men into a lot of educational based settings. Okay. Educational and age. So this is the guys who maybe go into trades. Maybe they go into the military. They just aren't college people. Not everybody's college material. And this is like your standard issue high school to college stuff. Okay. We're not talking about like you guys who are like, I didn't go to university because, the most successful entrepreneurs were university dropouts. And so I didn't go waste my money. And I'm not talking about those guys right now. I'm talking about guys who are high school guys and not college guys. So most men who graduate from high school start thinking of marriage as a real possibility when they are 23 or 24 years old. Now, most men who graduate from college don't start thinking about marriage as a real possibility until about the age of 26. This is the age when they've got a couple of years under their belt in the real world. They've graduated with their undergrad, and they have likely established themselves in the career path that they think that they want to stay on. I say think because let's face it, anymore people go through a whole university career, they have a business career, and they go, oh my gosh, why did I want to be in this field in the first place? And then they have a side hustle that takes off, or they move on to another, they get a postgraduate degree or whatnot. So 26 if they attended and graduated from undergrad. And this makes perfect sense. It's perfect for the timeline, because guys who go through that undergrad, they want to be established in the world of business. They want to get their feet under them with the career before they think about marriage. So it's oftentimes that age of commitment is generally around 26 if they've graduated from college. When men go to graduate school, it takes them longer to get into the working field, and they're not ready to get married until a few years after that. My oldest son is in this category. He very much is strategic about thinking about the fact that he's in the end third of his master's degree program, but he still plans on, without any reason to not to change this plans on a PhD. So he has no intention of marrying until after he has established himself career-wise, post grad, whatever that's called. Once he's doctor, then he will feel like he's at a place where he can settle down, so to speak, and get married. When men go to graduate school, it takes them longer to get into the working world, just because they're not able to set down and establish roots and start establishing their career until they are out of graduate school. And they're not ready to get married until a few years after that. 90% of the men who graduated from college are ready for the next step between the ages of 26 and 33. This takes into account all levels of college, university work. So whether it's undergrad or postgrad work, it takes into account all those ages and stages as well. This is when they are most likely to consider marriage. But this window of opportunity only stays open for 4 to 5 years, which is fascinating to me. And then the chances of a man marrying start to decline. And we get into that. We're going to get into that in a big way here in a little bit. But once you gentlemen, because I understand that my audience is 99.5% men, and I love that. Once you gentlemen get your feet under you in the real world, we'll call it, oftentimes the window where you see marriage potential for yourself is about 4 to 5 years. And that seems to apply, according to this research and according to just real world stuff that we witness in this neck of the woods, in this neighborhood, as well as out where human beings live and breathe, is that the window of interest in marriage for you guys is about 4 to 5 years once that clock starts ticking. And I hate to use that term because I don't want that to sound like I'm feminizing you, the biological clock thing. We will get into that. But really, there is an age of commitment, and it's a window that lasts about 4 to 5 years once you decide that marriage is a thing, that marriage is a possibility for you. A majority of college graduates between 28 and 33 are in their high commitment years and likely to propose. So literally, for the girls who are wanting a husband, a lot of it is about timing. A lot of it is just based on your timeline. If, the same girl, or the same guy, I should say, could date one girl all through high school and into college. But if they break up, once he's in his age of commitment, that window of commitment, then he's going to marry whoever's there with him at that time. I think that this is one place where guys in particular get themselves in a real bind, because just like I talk and preach all of the time across the board everywhere, is that you really need to be able to see a girl through financial hardships, through emotional ups and downs, through highs and lows of life, through maybe death, taxes, all of the highs and lows that can hit. And generally really dating someone, not just knowing someone, but really dating someone for about 2 years or more can give you a pretty good overview of how that woman handles the highs and lows, the struggles, and the great times of life. And then whether you really fit together or not. So the cautionary tale to this window of commitment being about 4 to 5 years, once you guys get your feet under you, once you've graduated from high school or college or post-grad, and you start in your chosen career field and start feeling established and ready, whoever you're with is the one who is in your targets at that time. And that can be a problem. That is where I see more marriage failures happening, because that's just your men's wiring. That's just what you're wired to do. That's where you're genetically programmed for this window of commitment. When Fort Worth and I were talking about this article originally, when he was first talking to me about it and telling me about it, he found it first. I immediately cued in my high school boyfriend. I would have married him in a heartbeat back when we were like just out of high school. We had been together 3 years. I was like, I wanted to get married. I wanted to start a family. And he was very much like, we need to get our university under us. We need to get careers established. We cannot get married until we've got these steps in place, which is exactly what this article is saying. So what did I do? Then I essentially married the first man that I was dating, who was within his window of commitment. He had his career established. He was outside of the university time. He was established. He was in his window of commitment, and when I was in mine. And sometimes those two things coming together at the same time can create a wonderful relationship. And sometimes it can be the biggest mistake that you guys make. I'm not calling my marriage a mistake. I'm just saying sometimes that is exactly what gets men in trouble, is that they are in the window of commitment at the time that they meet a specific person, and the next thing they know, they're married to them, and it maybe wasn't the best fit for them, but it's because of your timeline, your male timeline. This period for well-educated men just lasts a bit over 5 years. The chances men will commit are slightly less when they are 31 or 32 than when they are 28 to 30. But they're still in a high commitment phase. So the older you get, the further along the line in that window of commitment you get, the less likely you are to pull the trigger and to actually marry someone. Once men reach 33 to 34, the chances you'll commit start to diminish, but only slightly. Until men reach 37, they remain very good prospects. And then we get into the harsh truths. And this isn't about men hitting the wall. This is about men, I think, more emotionally feeling like it's just not going to happen. Like you might as well not try. You give up either from lack of experience, you give up from lack of opportunity. Maybe at this point, once you're older, and we're talking like 37, 38 right now. We're not in old man phase or anything. Make no mistake. But once that window of commitment has been open a little too long, you start to feel like you're getting your dick kicked in a little bit. You start to feel a little bit beaten up by the dating world. And we go into the reasons for that here in a moment. But in the meantime, we're going to keep going through the research and the stats. After the age of 28, the chances they will marry drop dramatically. The chances that a man will marry for the first time diminish even more once he reaches 42 to 43. At this point, men become confirmed bachelors, which we are also going to talk about. Once men reach age 47 to 50 without marrying, now this is still not married, no kids, at 47 to 50, the chances that they will marry do not disappear, but they drop dramatically. So I'm going to skip ahead a little bit. This is the reason, guys, this is the reason that we talk about dating younger women. Fort Worth has a book about this. Dating younger women is a critical element to exactly what this article is talking about. Because if you are dating younger women, if you are in that 24 to 33 age range, depending on your education, depending on your career path, if you are in that range, then if you're dating a younger woman at that time when you're in your window of commitment, she is in the prime of her life. This is why if you don't date your peers, if you don't date women who are only your age or within 2 or 3 years, if you genuinely date younger, you will benefit extremely well, and all will go as planned, because your girl will be in her prime at the time that you are in your window of commitment for being marriage minded. Everyone wins here. So Fort Worth is going to put up the link to his Dating Younger Women book, because it is prime real estate for exactly what we're talking about right here. You want to date younger if you are in this age of commitment. You do not want to be stuck then with a woman who is on the exact same timeline that you are. It's not good for anyone. Okay, so just because you're ready, meaning the women, doesn't mean he is. One of the most common mistakes that young women make is to assume that because they're ready for marriage in their early to mid 20s, the men they date are as well. But as the above research shows, that is not necessarily true. The younger woman dynamic benefits greatly here, because if you are a younger woman and you're in your prime, you're in that, let's say, 19 to 23-year-old age range, the guys who are your age aren't ready for marriage. More likely than not, most likely than not. I speak in grand generalizations here. If this does not apply to you, I respect that. But you are an outlier. You are an exception to every rule. But if you're in that 19 to 23 age range as a woman, and you are dating a man who is in the 28 to 35-year-old age range, it's perfect. He's getting himself established. He's getting himself in his established career. He's finished his university work. He is ready to enter that age of commitment that's about a 4 to 5 year window, and so are you as the woman. It is a win-win-win. There's one exception to this. One exception in this research that this researcher, John Malloy, found. Men and women who are seriously committed couples while still in school often get married shortly after they finish their formal education. This is usually an arrangement agreed I love the phrasing here, agreed to by the man, but devised by the woman. Such couples, however, represent a very small percentage of today's singles. Absolutely. Absolutely. So it used to be more the norm that high school sweethearts would graduate and get married. And oftentimes those were the couples that were not going to university. They were not moving on. They were entering the work field right after high school graduation. And couples like that tend to do very well, especially historically. They often have a lot of family support. They have, they've been together long enough that they have shared goals and understandings, and they just work well together. I think that is less true now, but who's to say? This also applies to couples. So the university couples, the college sweethearts that then get married straight out of college. Now, on the girls' side, that is the girls who went to university for that MRS degree, and they had a strategy going in and coming out that they were going to find their husband, and then as soon as they graduated, they would be married. These are also girls who oftentimes aren't really serious about utilizing that degree in any way, shape, or form in a career path. Maybe they went into school for education, to be a teacher, to be an art teacher, to be an artist. It's usually artistically driven fields where girls are looking for that MRS degree and not necessarily a career-driven degree. You know, girls who go into STEM are not usually looking for that husband just yet. They are wanting to enforce a career path and live by it. So this is some of the difference between men and women and their career paths and how they overlap or do not with their marriage paths and their window of commitment. So in this scenario, what we're just talking about is that if there are college sweethearts, oftentimes she will be guiding that boat because she went in with a plan. And she will make sure that by the time they graduate college, and oftentimes he's 1 or 2 years ahead of her. If she's smart as a freshman or sophomore, she's looking at the juniors and seniors, okay? And most of the girls who go for that MRS degree are exactly that smart. So that way, by the time she graduates, because they still want university graduated parenting to go into their children, their co-parenting and things of that nature. So it's still important to them that she still gets that degree. But once she graduates, he will already have a couple of years in the career field under his belt. He will be established. So he will have entered that window of commitment at just the right time for her to also have graduated. This is a best case scenario for most couples. But as this researcher says, such couples, however, represent a very small percentage of today's population. And that's more true now than it used to be. Next, we're going to talk about guys who essentially kind of throw themselves into looking for a wife. Dating with a purpose. I have an entire book bundle. It's a 5-book bundle based on dating with the purpose of finding a wife. It's not about you being a great husband. It's about finding a woman that you enjoy dating. It's 5 books. It's a compilation it's a collaboration between Fort Worth and I, and it's fantastic. I highly recommend if you are of a mindset that you'd like to find a girl. If you are of a mindset that you've been out on the scene enough and you are kind of tired of what you're seeing, this is a great way to start building that mindset. If you feel like you're kind of aging out, so to speak, of that window of commitment that we're talking about today, then the 5-book Date with a Purpose bundle would be a really good place to start. So one of the overreaching themes of the guys who are kind of starting to reach the end of their window of commitment, and really just kind of want to find a wife or not find a wife altogether, is that men were far more likely to marry. They just got tired of the single scene. So phrases like been there, done that. You know, I started feeling like everyone was too young. I just got bored with it. You know, all of this stuff applies to the guys who are just, they kind of force themselves into the window of commitment, specifically because they're bored. They're tired of running the game. Not all guys, especially not all guys in this neighborhood, are going to be able to relate to that. I mean, even Troy Francis, for the last few days, he's been pushing real hard on, you know, the best way to have a high quality life as a man is to never get married, have a vasectomy, never have kids, lift weights, you know, make a lot of money, date a lot of women. This is great for some men. He is an exception. He's not the rule. So keep all of this in mind and take everything with a grain of salt and apply it to your life as you see fit. All right. This author says, John Malloy says, they had not stopped dating. These men who are kind of like they're tired of the singles scene. They had not stopped dating. It's just that they were no longer going to singles hangouts and trying to pick up women several times a week. Picking up women was no longer their main reason for going out. A majority of them hadn't admitted it to themselves, but their answers revealed that they were trying to meet someone with whom they could have a serious relationship. They told us the single scene was not as much fun as it used to be. I also see in Fort Worth in my own like friendships with men who are still single, who have never married and don't have kids yet. It's not that they're not open to dating. It's that they are tired of the scene. So they still go out, they still do things, but instead of going out and doing things with the goal of meeting hot girls or hooking up with more women or dating girls, they are much more inclined to just go out with their buddies, to sit at the bar, to drink, to watch the game, to go play golf, to go places where the women necessarily aren't. So they kind of just remove themselves from the scene where they would be meeting more girls because they're just tired of it. They are tired of it. The men who had not completely given up on the single scene, but they were ready for something else or the next step. So again, they're open to relationship. They're open to dating to find a wife. They're open to like having a girlfriend. They just are tired of the scene. And I get that. It's got to be as fun as it can be. It's also got to be an ass kicker when it's a constant kind of drain on your energy. It's a drain on your finances in a lot of ways, you know, and it's a drain on your fun factor. I think that the longer that a guy stays on the single scene, so to speak, the more you feel like all girls are the exact same. And that gets very boring. And it's not wrong. It's not wrong. It's just, it gets probably boring to you to deal with. Now, I think that this is an important thing to note, is that this research is primarily between guys who are 27 and 34 years old. Let me back up again. The section of this research that I'm talking about right now, we've kind of moved into a next series of life that I did not mention, is that these are guys who are actually engaged. Now we've entered guys who are single but engaged. Okay, they are on their way to the altar. The majority of these men, because they're in that window of commitment, are between the ages of 27 and 34. However, there's an age range. There are outliers from the age of 17 to 77. So this is not just guys who are in that age of commitment that are on their way to the altar. They've found the girl that they're, come hell or high water, they're going to get married, and this is the one who is there. So I just want to point out that this is a pretty wide range of men's ages. It's not just the guys who are in that most popular age of commitment. Many men reluctantly admitted that for more than a year before becoming engaged to the woman that they are marrying, they felt uncomfortable in the singles world where they had been hanging out for the past 5 years. So I think this is an important point, that these guys, you guys, guys that you know, guys that you are buddies with, guys that you're attending and in their wedding, it's not that she's anything that they might have committed to 5 years before, but she was there at the right place, the right time. This is where girls vastly underestimate how important it is to catch men at the right time if these women want to nail down a husband. They go after, women are notorious for going after completely unavailable men, whether they're married or if they're just not in this age of commitment that we are talking about today. So each said that he had begun to feel uncomfortable in his favorite singles place about 2 years earlier, which would be about a year of feeling uncomfortable beyond being engaged for about a year. For most of these guys anymore, as it got closer to the kind of them getting bored with the single scene, as it got closer to the end of that window of commitment, their single scene kind of became church functions, meetings, networking events. It was much less of the bar scene that you kind of think of when you think the hip hopping single scene. It's much more the responsible way to meet women, right? So as men get further down the road and age, closer to the end of the age of commitment, that window of commitment where they'd like to be finding someone more serious, they'd like to have someone to live life with more so, they'd maybe even be open to marriage, the more they put away the bar scene and the more they kind of are looking towards more of a church scene, something religious minded, something more professional, something where they're meeting a more serious girl. This can work for or against you, because again, if you date younger, you're going to have to meet those younger women where they are. So when you're in the window of commitment, you need to think about that younger women dating and realize that is truly a cheat code to the rest of your life, and look where those younger women are. One said that the singles bar he used to visit was filled with teeny boppers and he felt out of place. He didn't say he had outgrown the bar, but complained that they weren't checking IDs anymore. That's pretty funny. The places these professional single men drew an older crowd. So that's the problem with, as they're entering the later stages of this window of commitment, that the places they're looking have older women in them. So you're going to find more of your peers. You're going to find more women who are your age, essentially, which means within 3 years, rather than those younger women who are in their prime and in their best marrying age as well. Also, if you're looking to, let's talk some truth here. If you're looking to a church single scene or church involvement to find a nice girl, which I'm a fan of, I'm all for, but understand that you're going to get a lot of pushback from people around if you are trying to date younger. If you're trying to look at girls who are in the 19 to 23 age range and you're in, you're 33, you're going to get some serious pushback in church groups more often than not. Those are the people who are going to be the most adamant that you date someone your own age. And that is a recipe for long-term disaster unless you truly were high school or college sweethearts and decide to get married straight after graduation. Still, 30% of the single men with postgraduate education said that as they approached 30, they began to feel they no longer fit into the single scene. So there is a point at which men are likely to be ready for the next step, but the specific age depends on the man's maturity, education, and profession, as we've been talking about. Two notable exceptions. I thought this was really fascinating. Two notable exceptions to this rule is that when men were balding or heavy set, they appear older, and therefore the rules shift up a little bit. It's fascinating to find out. So that window of commitment for guys who are losing their hair at a younger age, whether it's just, we all know that, like, one guy who maybe in college or in high school or early in college was already starting to really have thinning hair. We have a client who he's a young guy. He just graduated college. But unfortunately, he's short. He's 5'5", and he's got thinning hair at a very young age. And it's an unfortunate thing to see because in Fort Worth, and I talk about it far more than we probably should, because he's a good looking guy. He's charismatic. He's good looking. He's successful. He's got that college degree under his belt. He's marrying his high school sweetheart now, who is built like a bag of potatoes. But it's because he's gotten beat up by these contributing factors that make him less desirable out in the dating world. So the smartest way for him to play is to marry the mid-5 who already knows him, loves him, puts up with him, and they're going to have a lovely little life. So if you are a man who has the unfortunate timing of having thinning hair, of being a little more heavy set, those kinds of factors kind of accelerate that need for that window of commitment. Once a man decides he's too old for the single scene, that part of his life is over and he is more likely to marry. This is where the girls who are truly looking to marry, if you're just dating playboys, if you're just chasing after confirmed bachelors, you're going to get a lot of heartbreak. Girls who do not chase the guys or put themselves, and by chasing, I mean put themselves in their sphere. Women chase by putting ourselves in your orbit. We make sure we are where you are. We make sure that if you're attending an event, we are there. We make sure that while we're at that event together with you, we make eye contact with you. We are always close to you. We give you opportunities as females. We give you opportunities to come up and talk to us. We want you to instigate conversation. Oftentimes, more often than not, girls are not going to instigate conversation, but they are going to put themselves in your orbit. That is how girls chase before we're locked in on your dick. So keep all of those things in mind. If you are seeing the same girl over and over again that maybe you weren't seeing over and over again a month ago, that is not an accident. That is her putting herself in your orbit. Now, if you're not in this age of commitment, it's a moot point. If she's looking for a husband and you're looking for a fuck buddy, those two things don't mix well, and that ends up with her being incredibly heartbroken. Not your average Joe. New section. One of the focus groups composed of men about to marry. So these are the guys who are already engaged, who are heading to the altar. Said that if a woman wants to know whether a man is ready to get married, she should ask him how much he enjoys the single scene. If he says It isn't as much fun as it used to be. He's a very good prospect because he's ready to move to the next step. I thought that was really smart. Now, I know that my audience is not primarily female, but that's a great way to know as a male that you are maybe looking to date more seriously, maybe looking for that next step relationship that may possibly lead to marriage. Now we're going to talk about these confirmed bachelors, these bachelors for life. It's easy to spot a confirmed bachelor, this author says, this John Malloy. He's used to living alone, and that he will list the pleasures of the solo life, coming and going as he pleases, not answering to anyone as reasons for not getting married. Thousands of former confirmed bachelors get married each year, usually to a woman they've known for less than a year or whom they've been going with for many years. Once men reach the age of 47 to 50, according to this research, without marrying, the chances he will marry do not disappear, but they drop dramatically. We all know the confirmed bachelor who suddenly we get a wedding invitation from, who suddenly we found out through Facebook or through social media or through the grapevine that they're married. And we're like, what? He dated 1,000 girls. What do you mean he married this one? He just met her. And inevitably, she is a younger woman. She is a hot piece of eye candy. She is enthusiastic to be around him. She thinks that everything he says is absolutely adorable and entertaining and wonderful. These are the girls who get the guys that are as confirmed bachelor as they come. A lot of these guys, however, a lot of these confirmed bachelors are stringers. And let's talk about this. If you, being the woman, are dating a man, like I said, about midway through this article, it kind of went from research-based, just kind of reporting the research, to like being an article to women about dating. So we're gonna like roll with it here. I don't know if he wrote this in two settings or if he just changed his tone for shits and giggles. If you, the female, are dating a man who has had one or more long-term relationships with other women and didn't marry them, there's a real possibility that he, being you, are a stringer. A stringer is a man who strings women along. He likes having women. He likes sleeping with women. He likes eating with a woman and possibly even sharing his life with her without ever making any real commitment. He often tells women up front that he never intends to marry. So if and when he decides he wants to cut out, she has no reason to complain. Fort Worth and I have talked about this a lot. We've done podcasts on it. We've talked about it on shows. We talk about it all the time on Twitter X. We talk about that if you are a fun guy out to date multiple women, to run a rotation, and if that is of interest to you, check out Fort Worth's Build Your Dating Rotation or Your Dating Rotation. You need to check that out. But one of the keys to being a rotation guy and being a player or a playboy is that exactly what this is talking about. It makes you a stringer to a certain extent. You've got that mindset on the front end. I don't make a great boyfriend, but I'll show you a good time, and this way you can say, whenever she's trying to push for something more monogamous, when she's trying to push for something more serious, baby, I told you on the front end, I'm not the marrying kind. I'm not boyfriend material. That's not what I'm here for. I'm here for fun. And then if she wants to continue enjoying your fun, that's great. If she wants to exit stage left because she is more interested in something more serious and she doesn't want to get strung along for the rest of her life or for the rest of your attention, then she will move along. If you think you may be involved with a stringer, and this is geared towards women, but it's important to note, establish a deadline. I do find this really fascinating. So This author, a male, says, establish a deadline. If he doesn't commit to you within 6 months, that's really fucking soon, by the way. Get rid of him. Okay. I'm gonna keep reading this, but then I'm gonna circle back. Pay no attention to his excuses. He may tell you that you're coming on too strong. He may complain that the two of you haven't been going together long enough, that he doesn't know, that he hasn't made up his mind. In fact, he is likely going to tell you that anything you do to stick around without his needing to make a commitment, don't fall for it. The chances a stringer will marry you are very slim. He's simply not the marrying kind. I will say, you can date a woman as a rotation girl, as a fuck buddy, as a friend with benefits, as a girlfriend candidate, that top of the heap when you're running a rotation. Hey, baby, will you put the dating rotation book up as well? Yeah. You put up Build a Harem, but I think the rotation book would be even better. Thank you. You can still have a girl hang around. I usually say that the lifespan of a true rotation girl is going to be somewhere in the 6 to 12 month range. Maybe for some girls upwards of 2 years. But oftentimes, by the time you reach 2 years, even a girl who is truly just there for sex and just kind of needs a cleanse after a bad breakup or a divorce, oftentimes by 2 years, she absolutely cannot justify in her head still being a rotation girl, still just being there for fun. Okay. But a girl who sets the deadline of 6 months, that's a little soon. I think that's the one place in this article where he misses the mark, but I understand where he's coming from, because he may also be speaking to girls who are on the hunt for a husband. And if she's on the hunt for a husband at 6 months, she's probably losing her mind if she's essentially being a part of a rotation. So there is that. And this is much less the commitment of marriage and much more the commitment of maybe being more monogamous. So that's probably more applicable to what we're talking about with these stringers. We ran across at least 50 men who could identify as stringers. They can be very dangerous. I estimate each one is responsible for at least 2 women remaining single. They are destructive because they con women into wasting their time during the years when the women are most attractive and most likely to get a proposal. They stay with women, live with women, promise them marriage, and string them out indefinitely. These are girls that Fort Worth and I refer to as girls who just have had a string of bad luck. So oftentimes, and we've had multiple personal training female clients who have run into exactly this. They will spend 4 to 5 years with a man who they assume are continuing to build towards more commitment, marriage, family, all of the draws that girls have been thinking about since preschool. This is a whole life endeavor. From the moment that we discover the Barbie dream house, from the moment that we really wrap our heads around that our parents are married, from the moment that we discover boys and girls are thinking about who they're going to marry, what their kids are going to look like, what their wedding's going to look like, what their house is going to look like, how they're going to do things, how they're going to be as a mom. These are our obsessions. So these girls who have spent 4 to 5 years with one guy and then 4 to 5 years after another guy, they literally have exited their own window of commitment where they are in their prime. The length of time that some girls will waste on thinking that a man is going to propose and make them an honest woman is exactly the amount of time that it takes for them to have wasted their prime years. And this is why girls get pissed off because it does feel like a waste of their time. You've stolen my prime years from me. You've stolen the opportunity that I had to get married. You've stolen from me the opportunity to have had children, to have been a mother. And so these girls get really, really mad. I have a cousin in this boat, and she is pissed off about it. It causes a lot of drinking. It causes a lot of wine. It causes a lot of tears. That she's truly, and women in this boat have truly just missed their mark from a run of bad luck in dating stringers. Now, the next category, and I think this is really an interesting category that this author included in this research, is the male biological clock. Now, again, I don't want this to sound like an effeminate thing for men, but there are certainly men from the ages of, generally it's about when they hit their 40s, men who become more eager to marry, specifically because they always pictured themselves as fathers. It has nothing to do with, excuse me. It has nothing to do really with a deep desire to be married, but it does come from a deep desire to produce children. And it's not that you guys can't have children until you're through your 80s. It's not that. It's and this author covers it really well. They're in a hurry to have children, not because they're not physically able to father children, but because they want to be able to have children while they're still able-bodied enough to have a lifetime of enjoyment. They want to be young enough when their sons, specifically, because I do feel like more often than not, men imagine themselves as fathers with sons. And I think that this is an important delineation to make. They want to be young enough when their sons come along to teach them all the things fathers traditionally teach their sons: to ride a bike, to fish, to play ball, and so forth. The most important reason these men had for marrying was that if they waited much longer, they wouldn't be able to be active fathers. It's, again, the push to get married has nothing to do with the woman. It has nothing to do with a deep desire to get married, but they're going to marry the person in front of them, the woman in front of them, because they can't wait any longer to be able to not just create children, but to be active fathers in their lives. My ex-husband is a great example of this. He had children when we were married. We had more children. Our youngest was born when he was, I want to say 46. He is now pushing 60 years old, and our youngest child is not yet out of high school. This was a real concern for him when I got pregnant with her, and it's ringing true. He has not taken care of himself in the way that you would have thought he would have, and he's paying the price for it now. He's not able to be a very active father in that youngest child's life, and he's missing a lot of the things that he got to experience with the children who were more in his younger days. So there are a lot of guys who, another example of this exact thing is, I feel like, and Fort Worth laughs at me when I mention this, I feel like every single guy in my high school graduating class fits into this category where they kind of held off getting married. I don't know what we did to these guys, but they kind of held off getting married until like that they're just hitting against that last edge of that window of commitment. And suddenly they're all marrying at the same time. We're all marrying at the same time. It's been about 5 years now. But all of a sudden, they're like knocking on 40's door, and suddenly they're getting married. And I know it's 1000% because these guys all wanted to be fathers. They married the girl who was in front of them at the time. And then about the age that we all turned 40, they all started having kids. Now, the ones who did it right married someone and started having a family with someone who was a younger woman. Again, if this is of interest to you, that younger woman guide that Fort Worth put out is a must-have. It's a must-read, because dating and marrying younger is a key element in the longitudinal quality of life that you will likely have. They want to be young enough that they can have an active life in an active role in their children's lives. So this is one of the main reasons. I think it was a third of the guys who were researched, who were single and not yet engaged, gave for finally marrying. Once they hit about 40, the male biological clock started ticking, and they really wanted to be a dad, and they really wanted to be a dad while they were active enough and healthy enough to have a healthy life and a full life with them. Next section, and we're nearing the end, but this has just been, this is such a great article. I have gotten so much out of this, and I think it was just worthy of dedicating a full episode to exactly just kind of diving into this and talking through some of the background of the research that this guy has dug up. We talked to dozens of men in their late 30s and early 40s who had given up on the idea of marrying. My toner started giving out about this time. I don't know what that says. One of three things. Oh, okay. Of the men who were reaching that 30 to 40 year age, they've kind of outgrown that window of commitment. Most of them had some things in common that had actually kept them from being able to get married. Their looks, their height, and their social skills. Fort Worth and I know a guy who fit this bill perfectly. He's 46 years old at this point, not married, no kids, never married, no kids. And in talking to him, because I think of myself as quite the matchmaker. So any guy who's single in our sphere, I am always introducing them to cute little girls who would be great marriage material and would really vibe with them well. I have a 100% success rate, by the way, but don't ask me how many that means. But we talked to this guy, and he is very much like, I think the time has passed. I think my window of opportunity has passed. He's tall. He's got height on his side, but he's balding. I think he's a handsome man, but that's because I always have liked older guys. So like his baldingness doesn't necessarily matter to me. But it does matter to young women who are looking to have children and don't want kids who are going to have a pattern baldness in their genetic line. But the main thing working against this one particular man that is also lifted up in this research is he is socially awkward. This is where he's got a successful job, but he is socially awkward. This is where my Instant Self-Confidence with Women handbook and Fort Worth's basic training books are key. If you are either in a stage of your life where you've just maybe given up, maybe you aren't very tall, maybe you feel like your social awkwardness works against you, maybe you don't feel like you have the looks to attract a girl that you would desire, Basic Training 1 and 2 and Instant Self-Confidence with Women handbook, both will help get you on your way to understanding how to be charismatic, how to truly run game on women, which game is just learned charisma. It's okay to have to learn this stuff. It's okay not to automatically know everything that will make you the most attractive man to women possible. And both of these, or all three of these books, also are in bite-sized pieces. So these books, the basic training books, as well as the instant self-confidence book, both are all about bite-sized pieces. You can read all at once and kind of take the shotgun approach and throw everything at it, or you can take one step at a time. You can say, today I'm going to focus on this. This week I'm going to focus on this. This month I'm going to focus on this skill or this practice, and I'm going to make it a part of my everyday. These are the ways that these two books, Instant Self-Confidence with Women Handbook and Basic Training 1 and 2, can deeply benefit you if you have reached, like, if you are scratching that last bit of the window of commitment, and you've just about given up on thinking that it's a possibility. Not because you just don't want to, not because you're a confirmed bachelor and don't have any interest in marrying, but that if you would like to marry, if she fell into your lap, these two books or these three books will help the right women fall into your lap, because you will not be socially awkward. You will not allow your looks or your height get in the way. Game overcomes a lot. And these three books, these two series, go a long way in getting you over that socially awkward hurdle. If I heard it once, I heard it a dozen times. If I could find a nice woman, I'd marry her tomorrow. Period. Most of the men who were in this boat would be described as excessively shy. So Instant Self-Confidence with Women and the Basic Training 1 and 2, huge things that you can overcome that will immediately make you more attractive to the women that you most desire. These men have been rejected and demeaned for years by women because they weren't tall enough or handsome enough or smooth enough. So this confidence from knowing what to do and knowing your way around and being able to truly fake it till you make it. There is nothing wrong with having to learn this stuff. It benefits you in every way. If you were making a business decision, if you were going into a new career field, if you were wanting to learn a new hobby, if you were wanting to learn a new language, you wouldn't go at it haphazardly and then wonder why it didn't work. I can't just decide I'm going to learn French and start watching French movies with no subtitles and then be pissed off that I don't automatically know French. It doesn't work that way. The same is true with game. The same is true with self-confidence. The same is true with attraction and dating and being successful in relationships and having a wonderful marriage. These things do not happen by accident, and they are things that you can constantly be improving and honing your skills and being better at. If this stuff does not come naturally to you, and very few are true naturals, then it's okay to learn. It's okay to have a mentor. It's okay to ask questions of big brothers, uncles, people that you know and respect. It's okay to read books and take seminars and join webinars and take courses. This is the way that you get better at the things that you are interested in. And choosing the right wife is truly the most financially expensive bet you can make. If you marry the wrong woman, it's very expensive. Which brings us to truly the last section that we are going to cover in this research, in this article, for those of you who are later to the game, the reason why men marry some women and not others. Next, we're going to talk about men finding women a bad investment. They find marrying women as to be a bad investment. And they're not wrong. I mean, there are a lot of stats that make marriage an incredibly unattractive thing to undertake. The possible drawback, there is a possible drawback to women to dating a man aged 40 or older. Many men at that age begin to look at women and marriage as a poor financial investment. The irony is that many of the men who spoke this way really didn't have all that much money anyway. I find that really interesting because Fort Worth and I often do talk about the fact that a lot of the guys who talk about women just being after my money and women being gold diggers and all this stuff genuinely are really not the ones that true gold diggers are looking for. So there's a financial concern there, but women and marrying the right woman can also be a real financial benefit. If she's making your life easier, if she's adding quality to your life, if she's making your life a more pleasant place to be so that you can be more productive, so that you can focus more on your skills, so that you can build a business that you want to build, so that you can be more available to raise healthy, happy children and families, then that is oftentimes more considered a good financial investment in your future. So the main breakdown, just to cover all the highlights of this article. Most men will not even consider marriage before they reach the age of commitment. For 80% of high school graduates, the minimum age of commitment is 23, whereas 80% of college graduates is 26 years old. The high commitment period for most college-educated men is from the ages of 28 to 33. Again, guys, this is not in this article, but you've got to marry younger. If you're 28 to 33 years old and you're in that age of commitment, the best thing that you can be doing is looking at the girls who are still in college, just graduated college. They're like, they are in their prime so that they can have healthy pregnancies. They can be beautiful brides. They can be young, vibrant mothers. They can have the energy and the wherewithal to be a great homemaker and also look good on your arm. After the age of 37 or 38, the chance that a man will commit diminishes. After 43, it diminishes even more. These are just the highlights. These are just the highlights of all the things that we've been talking about for over an hour. Most men think sowing their wild oats is a rite of passage, which I agree, and will not even contemplate marriage until they have been working and living as independent adults for several years, which is why the window of commitment starts at about 26 for college graduates. It starts about 28 for postgraduate work, graduates. Men are most likely to marry after they become uncomfortable with the singles scene, which happens at the tail end of that window of commitment. Men also have biological clocks. They want to be young enough to teach their sons to fish and play ball and do the male bonding thing. Men who look at marriage as a financial arrangement in which women have the most to gain are likely not to marry, nor are they good prospects. And then the article also went into like their parental background, their political shared views, their religious shared views. And primarily the goal of this article, and therefore this discussion, is to be, if you are in that window of being open to marriage, then you need to go where the marrying girls are. You need to go where the girls who are truly interested and available for that kind of commitment are. Going to the party girls isn't going to find it as at the same rate that girls who are just chasing after confirmed bachelors and playboys aren't going to find what they want either. So the final line of this article, again, like I said, at the end, it kind of geared more towards women. If you, the woman, wish to facilitate a trip to the altar, meet and date only the marrying kind. This will reduce a woman's likelihood of wasting her time with men who are not yet ready or not mentally prepared for that commitment. So this is why, guys, you have to focus not only on getting your education, getting your feet under you, establishing that career, establishing the business, whether you whether you attend college, whether you attend postgraduate work, or whether you get hustling straight out of high school or are looking at finding another wife after a breakup or a divorce or a long period of time off the dating market. You have to focus on the kind of girl that you truly most desire and meet her where she's at. It's a numbers game. You have to put yourself out there. You have to build your dating rotation. You have to date younger. You have to, if you are interested in dating for marriage, you're dating with a purpose. All of these things apply to your life, and all of these things make the research that we found in this article incredibly fascinating and applicable to you. Whew. I'm tired of the sound of my own voice. How about you guys? I hope that you have found this topic as fascinating as I did. I really found this to be interesting research, particularly since it was a male-driven article, a man writing the article, and he wasn't doing it from a slant of being a dating and relationship coach or a psychologist or a therapist. He truly was fascinated by the topic, and he did a lot of great research to find stuff that everything in here matches what Fort Worth and I talk about and what we see in real life every day. So I don't really see anything in here that was too far off the mark. There were some things that were just a little bit like, instead of being on the street, they were on the sidewalk, but they're parallel. So I think that this has been a really interesting topic to discuss. I think that it was worthy of spending this hour together. And I hope that you feel like I've brought you some real information that you can utilize in your real life. Whew. I wish you all the best. I hope that you have a wonderful Sunday. I thank you so much for spending your time with me. It's not lost on me that you guys spend an hour with me on Sunday mornings, diving deep into a topic that I feel passionate that will help you in the long run. So I am here to hopefully help you have a better, more consistent, more fun-filled and satisfying relationship and life in general. So thank you so much for joining me. Thank Fort Worth in there for always making me look good, for staying on top of making sure that you guys have all the links. I hope to see you tomorrow morning, Monday through Saturday morning at Wake Up with Bunny, 7 a.m. Central Standard Time. I'm having a great time with that. And I hope that you will join me there. If you are not already, please jump on Fort Worth and my email lists. We put as much effort as we put into videos and research for these topics. We put our best work into, and this is my personal opinion, I think that we put our best work into our email list. So if you are not, my Bunny report is my weekly newsletter, email newsletter, and his is the Fort Worth Playboy email newsletter. Please click on those links and join our email list if you want the best of the best of the best of Fort Worth and Bunny. That is the places you're going to find them. Thank you so much. Have a great day, and I appreciate you attending Bunny Church today. I feel like I need a closing hymn or something. I think that would be pretty fun. Thank you, guys. Bye.